All right, Unit 5, Formula 1, Video 2, Factoring Trinomials. Okay, so today we're going to work backwards. Now we've done problems like this before, where we had to distribute x times x is x squared, and then x times negative 2 is negative 2x. And then we did the 5 times x is 5x, and then the 5 times negative 2 is 10. And the middle two combined, so we got x squared plus 3x minus 10. Okay, what we're doing in this section is we're going to start with this problem, and then we have to come up with this answer. Okay, so a couple things you need to look at is the first and the last term, just when we were distributing them, those are going to be the key. Okay, the only way I can get an x squared is to multiply x times x. Okay, and now there's only certain ways that I can get negative 10. Okay, so we're going to use that knowledge in our number sense to solve the problems. All right, so here we go. So now again, we're going to start with our two parentheses. Okay, and the only way we can get x squared is to take x times x. Okay? Now, here's where the trick comes in. Okay, now first of all, remember our terms or our equation is ax squared plus bx plus c. So a is in front of the x term, b is in front of the x, and then c is the number that doesn't have a variable with it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my a times my c. So remember that's a 1. So I'm going to take 1 times negative 15 and I get negative 15. Okay, so that's going to go in my first column. Okay. Now your second column is going to be your b term, which in this case is the 2. Okay, and what we're looking for, I put this multiplication here, is we're looking for two factors that when I multiply them together, I get negative 15, and then when I add them, I get the b. Okay, so multiply to get negative 15, but when I add them, I get a 2. Okay, so let's try some. Now when you do this, I always start with 1. Now we want to multiply to get a negative number, so I know that I'm going to need a negative and a positive. So negative 1 and a positive 15. If I multiply those two, I get negative 15. Okay. Now when I add those two, negative 1 and 15, I get 14. Okay. But remember, I want a 2, so that's not going to work. So we're going to go to the next one. 2 won't go into 15, 3 will though. So negative 3 and 5. If I multiply those two together, I get negative 15. And when I add them, I get 2, which is what I want. Okay, I got a 2 when I add them, and I get one a 2. So this one's going to be our answer. Okay, now here's the key. These are nice because these are both 1x's, okay? Because what's going to happen is when you multiply those two together, you're going to either have to get the 5 or the negative 3. It really doesn't matter. Okay, and then when you multiply those two together, you're going to have to get negative 3. Okay, so let's look at the outside ones. 1 times what equals 5? Well, it's going to be a 5, so that's what it's going to go there. Okay, now in the center, 1 times what equals a negative 3? Well, that's going to be a negative 3. Okay, now it's neat, it's nice because since these are both 1s here, okay, we basically just took those two numbers, okay, and put 1 in the first parentheses, 1 in the second. Does not matter if you flip them. Okay, just make sure if this is a negative 3, this has to be a minus 3. It could be here or here. Okay, the 5 again is a positive, so it can be in the first parentheses, or the second just needs to be a plus 5. Okay. All right, let's look for one without a 1. All right, so here we go. We're going to start with our two parentheses again. Okay, on our chart. Remember, this is going to be a times c, and this is b. Okay, so now 3x. I'm going to get 3x squared, 3x times x is the only two things I can multiply to get 3x squared. Okay, we know we have our little brackets. All right, so a times c. So I'm going to take 3 times negative 18, and I get negative 54. Okay, now, and I want it to add up to negative 25. Okay, so again, I'm going to start with 1s. I like to start simple, and I like to go in order. So negative 1 and 54. Okay, when I multiply them, I get negative 54. When I add them, I get 53. That's not what I want. So now I'm going to go negative 2 and 27. When I multiply negative 2 and 27, I get negative 54. When I add them, I get a 25 though. Okay, but if you look, it's close. I got a 25, but I want a negative. Okay, so using your number sense, okay, if I wanted this to be a negative 25, what would I need to do with the signs here? Okay, and I can flip them, right? So I'm going to go ahead and flip them. So we have 2, negative 27. Now again, if I multiply those two, I get negative 54. And when I add them, I get negative 25, which is what I want. Okay, So now this one with the 3 being here, you got to be careful because you can't put any number here. Okay, so you need to make sure 3 times something, okay, goes here. Okay, so let's look at these. Which one of these numbers will 3 go into? Okay, it won't go into 2, but it will go into negative 27. So the negative 27 has to go here. Okay, you can't flip them like when on the last one. So that makes the 2 go here. Okay, so now you're going to look. 3 times what equals negative 27? And that would be a negative 9. So that was going to be a minus 9. Okay, now the nice thing about this one is the middle one is always just going to be the number, because this, remember, we're always going to have a 1 here because we put the 3 here. So 1 times what equals 2? And that would be a 2, and it has to be positive. Okay, and then that's our answer. All right, let's do another one. All right, so let's start with our 2 parentheses and our chart. So this is A times C, and this is B. Okay, remember that's a 1. Okay, so to get x squared, we have to take x times x. Now, A times C, so it's 1 times negative 35, which gives us negative 35, and we want it to add to the middle term, which is negative 2. Now, some of you guys are going to start picking up on the factors faster, and that's fine. But just to show you how the easiest way to do it, I'm again always start with 1. So negative 1 and 35. If I multiply them, I get negative 35, but if I add them, I get 34. Okay, that's not what we want. So 2 won't go into it, 3 won't, 4 won't, 5 will. So I'm going to go negative 5 and 7. If I multiply those two, I get negative 35. Okay, but if I add these two, I get a 2, which I want a negative 2. So we run into the same problem we did on the last one. How do I get this a negative 2? Well, I'm going to switch my negatives. So 5 and negative 7. So again, if I multiply these two, I still get the negative 35. And if I add them, I get a negative 2, which is what I want. Okay. Now again, all right, both of these are 1. So 1, okay, doesn't matter where they go. So you can do a negative 7 here in the 5, or you can do it the other way. So 1 times what equals negative 7? Well, that's going to be a negative 7. And 1 times what equals 5? And that's going to be a 5. So that would be a plus 5. Okay. All right, next one. Okay, so again, we're going to start with our 2 parentheses. And you're thinking, how am I going to get 2x? I'm going to take an 2x times x. My chart, take A times C. So 2 times negative 7 is negative 14. And this one's going to be your B, and that's negative 13. All right. So again, I'm going to start with 1. Negative 1 and 14. Multiply them. I get negative 14, but when I add them, I'm going to get a positive 13, okay? But I want a negative 13, so I'm going to switch the sign just like last time. So here, when I multiply 1 and negative 14, I get negative 14, but when I add them, I get my negative 13, which is what I want. So here's going to be my problem, okay, or my solution. Okay, now since there's a 2 there, you got to be careful. So 2 times something has got to equal a number. So which one of these will 2 go into? Okay, it'll go into negative 14. So your 2 has to be attached to your negative 14, which means your 1's going to be attached to the insides. So 2 times what is going to equal this negative 14? And that's going to be a negative 7. Okay, and then in the middle, this is a 1, remember? So 1 times what equals 1? That would be a 1, so it's a plus. Okay. And that's it. That's factoring trinomials.